I'll be walking you through some practical steps of how to discover, define, and live out your brand. So sit back, enjoy your coffee, and get ready to build your brand. So you're in business for yourself, and it's a great feeling, most days, but it doesn't come without its challenges. And one of the biggest challenges for any business is being heard and attracting customers. As an entrepreneur, you work hard to sell your products and your services to an overcrowded marketplace, one filled with noise and confusion, and don't forget, your competitors. You and your business need to communicate clearly and instill confidence in the consumer's mind that you are the right choice for them. Your brand and your story are two of the most powerful tools that your business can employ to cut through the clutter and stand out from the rest. In this episode, we'll talk about your purpose, your audience, and your story, and that these key pillars are at the core of your brand. And how to understand them will help you position yourself for success in the marketplace. Let me ask you a few questions. Have you lost the passion for what you do? Do you know what your brand truly is? Can you clearly articulate it to others? And is your story engaging and motivating? Maybe you're able to respond to those questions very quickly without even giving them a second thought. But my hunch is the reason that you're watching this video is that you may be struggling in a few of these areas. Let's see what we can do about giving you some clarity and confidence to move forward. So what is brand? I love this quote. Your brand is a powerful manifesto, a passionate story of life and business, a declaration of visions and values, a strategic map, and the starting point of unimaginable journeys. Your brand is about mission and the interplay of business strategy with consumer psychology, a field of creativity, symbolism, and bridge of connections, a blueprint of intentions, dreams, and ideals. Your brand is your identity. Your brand is your story. It's not about what you do, it's actually about who you are. It's about the perception created in the mind's eye of your target audience. It's about your community. It's not about the pretty pictures, your logo, your website, etc. It's about the heartbeat of you and your business. It's your most valuable business asset. Have you ever thought of it that way? When you think about your brand at a deeper level than just the execution of another ad campaign, you'll start to build a solid foundation for your business strategy to grow from. So next, we're going to talk about purpose. Every entrepreneur has a purpose, whether they realize it or not. And every business needs to make a profit, whether they do or not. The challenge is finding the right balance between making money and making a difference. And if you don't have a clear understanding of what your purpose is, you'll always struggle to build a compelling brand. One morning you're going to wake up, whether you're making money or not, and you're going to wonder if you're truly doing what you set out to do in the first place. Is this really all there is? Without a purpose, a business won't be sustainable for the long term. Or at the very least, you as an entrepreneur are going to feel unfulfilled or perhaps even lost. Do you feel that way? I know I did. I can clearly remember the day that I woke up and I was making decent money. I was serving my clients well, but then I just started to feel really unfulfilled. Just putting in long hours and doing the same thing over and over. And I started realizing that I have lost my way. And they say, when you lose your way, you've lost your why. So your purpose is the core of your brand DNA. As I said, it's your why. And what's really important is finding your personal purpose and your business purpose and connecting those two together. Then it's like magic. I remember for myself, going back to my own story, when I first woke up and thought that I had kind of lost my why and was wondering what to do next, I started kind of going on a personal journey of discovering or rediscovering my purpose. I had always understood kind of what my personal purpose was, but I figured I had to find a way to connect that to my business purpose. And so I reevaluated business and looked at the services I was offering and the clients I had and where I wanted to go and my dreams that I had. And I looked at my personal purpose and I found a way to dovetail those together. And when that happened, like I said, it was like magic. And for me, it was like fireworks going off. And I can remember it to this day. And from then on from that point forward, I have never turned back. And I've got a new purpose in life, especially for my business, of where I'm going and who I'm serving and what I need to clearly communicate to them. As I said before, your brand comes from who you are first, and then you build your business plan around that. Once it becomes evident and strong, then you can start to broadcast that out there and make it very clear to the community you're trying to reach. And if you've done your homework well, your audience will affirm it. It'll resonate with them. And you'll start to cultivate a community, a following, a tribe, if you will. Okay, before we go any further, and some of you want to actually pause the video or get off the bus, and you're wondering why I'm singing Kumbaya here on purpose, I'm getting somewhere. A business needs two pillars. It needs to be purposeful and it needs to be profitable. You cannot have one without the other. Any accountant's going to tell you that, because if you're not profitable, then you're a not-for-profit. And if you're only focused on money, as I said before, it's not sustainable long-term. So keep that in mind as we go forward, that you have to be both purposeful and profitable. So I kind of developed a process for myself as I was walking through my own journey. So I'm going to pass that along to you. It's worked well for a lot of my clients, and I'm just going to walk you through that. So it starts off with the four P's of purpose. So the first P is passion. The second is proficiency, and then people with a problem, and profit. And yes, those type A's out there that we're counting, that's probably 5, but we're putting people with a problem as 1. First off is, what are you passionate about? What do you love to do? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Even if it was something that you didn't make money at, what gets you excited? So you want to start looking at that. Do you love being out in nature? Do you love cooking? Do you love interior decorating? Do you love teaching people? What is it? And then you have to think about what you're proficient at. Are you good at these things? You may love singing, but you're not very good at it. So that's probably going to strike that out there for a business opportunity. Are there people with a problem? Is there a gap in the marketplace, as we call it in our industry? Is there something that you uniquely can fill in the market with a passion and your proficiency? And then all those come together. If they line up, passion, proficiency, and filling the problem, then can you make a profit at it? Most times, if there's a problem out there and you're solving it in a unique way, you should be able to have a good business model, but you have to have a plan around that. So keep that in mind. For me, I love to eat, so there's a passion, right? People are out there and they also like to eat. Wow, so I should open up a restaurant today. Problem is I can't cook. So there'd be a lot of starving people, or my business wouldn't be very profitable. Sure, I could partner with someone who's maybe a gourmet chef, and we could do a business like that together, but it's really great to be able to start where your passion is first, so that it'll keep driving you. If you get into a business that you're not passionate about and you're just making money, then again, as we said before, it's not going to be sustainable long-term for yourself. So remember the 4 P's: passion, proficiency, people with a problem, and profit. So how do you go about discovering your own purpose? Well, it's a journey, as I mentioned before. So you got to start the journey, and it doesn't happen overnight. I'd like to say that it's easy, but the fact is, if you've been doing life for a while, which I'm assuming you are, if you're in business, you're probably over the age of 18, you have been walking along this journey, and you probably have had inklings or some epiphanies of some of the things that you were created for and destined to do. And some of those things that as an entrepreneur you've been kind of being drawn to in a different way. And you might have not written them out or been able to articulate them, but it's inside your DNA and in your heartbeat. So one of the best ways to discover your purpose is using the listening process. First of all, you want to listen to your heart. So listen to what's inside your heart, inside your head, inside your own being, right? For some of you, that might be reading some different books or just journaling. Some people, it's meditations. For some people, it's a time of prayer. For some people, it's getting out into nature. Whatever it is for you, you want to unplug and get into your zone. Find that space where you're not distracted and you can actually do some deep soul searching, or as I call it, navel gazing. And then you want to listen to others. So you're looking for affirmation of what you're good at and maybe not so good at. You're looking for advice and some guidance. You're not looking to the naysayers. Although it's good to hear some negative or constructive feedback, Naysayers are always just about what the extreme negative is, because they're scared for taking a risk themselves, so they'll actually try to drag you down. So that can be a whole session on its own. We're not even going to talk about it. You know who they are, so I want you to stay away from them. You're looking for positive affirmation or constructive criticism. Those that maybe have journeyed with you before or seen you do things in life, that they can affirm that you're gifted at certain things, you have the ability or you're passionate about it, and you might have missed it, and they're able to then be your sounding board or your mirror, if you will, to say, yeah, you've always been good at that. You can do that. I actually have seen you make a difference with that in your lives, and you're actually quite passionate about it. Then you want to listen to the marketplace. What's happening out there? As we said before, what is the gap in the market that you need to fill? What does the world need? What problem are you able to solve? So start listening by researching. Go online, start researching some secondary research, reading some different articles that are out there. Start talking to people. That's like primary research. You want to start asking some really good questions out there. Watch social media. Watch for cues in social media or the news or anything online, or even when you're going out for coffee and you're talking to people in a social setting. Keep your ears open for what opportunities might be out there that you can start seeing that might be something that you could fill for your purpose. And as I said, you want to unplug and get away. If you just sit in the same office that you're always been sitting, or if you're at home or in the noise and the clutter of daily activity, maybe you're still working before you've started your own business, then you need to unplug and get out of there. You need to take some time and really do some soul searching. Ask yourself questions. What am I passionate about making a difference in the world or in my community? Again, it doesn't have to be global. It might be really local. In what way can I make a difference? What am I proficient at? What am I good at? What do I have skills to do? And is there a gap in that marketplace that you can fill? What solutions can you uniquely bring to the table? And how can you stand out? Or like I like to say, how can you brand out? And then you want to start thinking about what your plan is to make this profitable. So you're going to start jotting down all kinds of ideas and notes, and then you're going to think about what products or services you can sell, the market, where are you going to offer this? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be a local bricks and mortar location? And you start drafting that all out. You start adding up some numbers to see if it's doable, right? What is the cost of doing business? So once you've gone through that process, and again, it doesn't happen overnight, it might be over time, it could actually happen quick. These tools could actually just trigger something that's actually been sitting inside you for a very long time, and you're just ready to rock and roll. For some of you, this might be weeks, if not months. It could be a year-long journey where you're actually trying to test the waters constantly. So keep dreaming, keep thinking about things, dream big. I like to do a what-if exercise with my clients. What if there's no budget constraints? Wouldn't that be nice? And no time constraints. And there's no naysayers. What are some of those big dreams that you'd like to do? And some of the things will be crazy, but put them all down on the paper. And then you start sorting through them of what you could possibly do. And then you want to create a purpose statement. And that's something I can teach you in another episode, but it's something that you can actually put on your wall, that will actually drive you, that you can put into deep inside yourself to be like your mantra of why you exist in this business world and what you're going to do as an entrepreneur. And so you're going to take time to craft that. A very simple statement, and like I'd say in another episode, it's going to be so lofty that it's actually going to scare you, but that will compel you. So we'll park that there for now. So once you've created your purpose statement, then you want to move into the other typical business statements, vision and mission. But a lot of businesses will forget about purpose, or they actually just don't include it, and they just jump right into vision and mission. And they actually get them mixed up from my perspective. That can be a time we can debate that elsewhere. But purpose is your why, and it drives vision, which is your where, and mission is your what and your how. Let me explain that. Purpose drives vision and mission. If purpose is your why you exist, why you care, And vision is where you're going to take the business, where you're going to go. It's a little further out, and what it's going to look like when you get there, when you've arrived basically, and what your audience might be experiencing at that point where you've helped them. And then mission is what you're going to do, your products and your services, how you're going to execute that and to serve your audience. After you've got these statements drafted out, and you might revisit them. Remember, when you're developing something like a brand strategy, we call it, it's organic. And it doesn't mean that it changes with the wind, but it can grow and evolve a little bit. So you might be revisiting some of these statements as you go on and test the waters a little bit. Then next, you want to set some goals. What are your business goals? What does your next year look like? What do your next 3 years look like? If you can stretch yourself, what do the next 5 years look like? Who knows that? As an entrepreneur, it's really hard, but you want to set some goals, and then you want to bring some down to some closer goals or milestones. And you want to start thinking about your goals in kind of 3-month blocks and set a couple big stone goals every 3 months. And then, so you'll get to your 1-year goal, but don't get overwhelmed trying to get them all done, them at the same time. Focus on a couple at a time and move yourself forward. And you want to build a plan. Get strategic. This is the time to start to build that foundation for your business, all built on that core DNA of the purpose of your brand. All right, so now that we've talked about how to discover your purpose, now we're going to move on to your audience, those that you're trying to attract to buy from your business. So we've talked about gap in the marketplace and the problem that you're trying to solve. So these are the folks that you're actually trying to solve the problem for. So who are they and what do they need? And you've heard me talk about strategy before, and everything in business needs to be a strategic play. So even when we're talking about audience, I don't want you to take it that lightly. I want you to push yourself to go a little deeper. Don't just make assumptions of who your audience is. Think deeper. And so I'll give you some exercises a little bit how you could do that. But again, just because you have a restaurant just doesn't mean that everybody's your audience because everybody likes to eat. You will have a specific audience for your specific type of restaurant that you have. So think a bit deeper. So we like to use the word personas. Personas to describe the different types of audiences that you're going to be speaking to and engaging with. So I want you to write down 3 different groups later after this video. And the one group is going to be the obvious one. That's your target audience. Those are the customers that will need your services or your products. But then I want you to think about 2 other groups. And you can play around with these groups yourself and change them, but I want you to you're trying to broaden your horizons. And these other groups are ones that will influence your community and tribe that you're trying to speak to specifically to buy from you. But this will flesh out and fill out, I guess, the tribe in a larger sense. So the one audience on one side, and for ourselves in our own business, we target a younger audience, those that may not need our services today or may never, but we want to give back to them. So for an example, we work with Junior Achievement, and we actually help young entrepreneurs understand what it is to run a business. And so we're helping build them up a little bit. So it's about giving back. You might have another one that you just want to work with a nonprofit group, but you might go and you speak at those groups or tell them about your products and services in light of how it could actually you're not selling, but giving them some tips on some different life skills that they could use, on public speaking or whatever you might be giving back to them. So think about what you're passionate about again, and what audience actually fits with your purpose. So for us, it was young entrepreneurs, and that fit with our purpose. The other group is what I call key influencers. And those are a broad range of people, different people that would actually influence the larger group or your key audience to understand a little bit about you, or they would be your brand champions and they would tell people about you and your services, and they'd be getting excited. They may not ever buy from you, but they are going to be key individuals that would be out there networking. You're networking with them, whether it's on LinkedIn or in person, and they're going to impact the perception that people have about you. So these might just be colleagues, industry colleagues, other industry professionals, Those again, like on social media, Chamber of Commerce, different associations that you might be a part of, whether it's the Home Builders Association or so forth. So think about that group as well too, and how you can communicate to that group in order for them to better understand your business model and how they can actually support that. So I want you to do that exercise later, write that down, as many ideas that come to mind about that, and kind of make some notes about who you're talking to today and who you could be talking to tomorrow, as in the future. As you're building your business and your brand, there's different audiences that you might not have been speaking to yet that you want to communicate with. So back to though your core audience that you're providing services for, is do you really understand them? So I don't want you to just write down just the typical demographics, male age 35 to 50, and this kind of income. And that is important. You want to get those basics down, but do you understand their pains and their gains and their fears? When you can start thinking about them at kind of a cultural level and a psychological level, the types of coffee they like, where they go on holidays, their education level, what keeps them up at night, what would help them feel fulfilled as well too, what are the things that they need from your industry to make their life better. When you start thinking of it that way, then you're starting to go at a deeper strategic level that actually can help you really get inside their head, so that later when you start communicating with them, that it'll really strike a chord and be compelling. So the next thing you want to do is do some research. You want to do primary and secondary research. Primary is when you're meeting people in person or doing phone interviews. You can hire that out, or you can do it yourself. You're asking them questions of what they need from your industry. Not specifically would they buy from your business, but more about what their needs are. And secondary research, that's using the internet to find existing research that's out there, whether it's in articles or in documents, and just relating that back to your audience. You want to think about what you're offering. What are you offering to your audience? What are you saying to them? And you want to build that strategy. And so we call it a marketing strategy. That's kind of the top level of where you're going to be going. And then you want to pull that down into something that's a little bit more action-oriented, called a communications plan. So once you understand your audience, you can really go deep into your strategy, and you can actually build this powerful plan to get your brand message out there and really communicate well with everybody. So before you get out there and start communicating, you need to craft a story. You've got a story and you want to tell the world about it. It's about building community, and your story is a part of your brand DNA. And if you don't tell your story well, others will tell it for you. They'll either tell it from their own perception or experiences with your business and your brand, and they may get it inaccurate, or they might tell people bad things that they've experienced, and you haven't had that chance, or you didn't take the initiative yourself to actually craft a really strong, clear, and compelling story. And when you do that, then that sets the platform, the basis for your story out there. And then when people start experiencing your business and encountering your brand, then they'll either affirm it or push back, or start taking the story and expanding on it. And that'd be exciting when that starts to happen. So make sure that you're telling the correct version so others can springboard off of that. And remember, it's not just about you. Yes, it's your story, but it's also about your customer. It's their story. So a story has different characters. And when you think about it, your brand story is actually more about the audience than it's actually about you. I know that sounds really strange, and why do we talk about purpose and everything like that? But it's to get to that deeper level and to really understand even the needs and fears and desires of your audience. So they're the hero in your story, if you can put it that way, and you're like the guide, and you're trying to help them succeed in their own story. So that's part of your brand story. It's all connected together. So if you think of it like a movie, and you can kind of draft it out that way, and there's some neat exercises on that as well too. So you want to really show them that you understand what they need, that you've done your homework, right? And you want to also talk about your expertise a little bit or display that. You don't want to lead. So many businesses, if you look at websites, it's all about them, expertise and the whole bit. And people zone out. They want to know what's in it for them. We're a selfish society. So you have to balance your expertise with empathy to show them that you understand what they need and you've been there and done that in a sense, and that you're there to support them with that next stage for themselves. Your story needs to be clear and compelling. It's all about clarity. If you haven't taken the time to figure out your message and kind of craft your story, then you're not going to make it very clear to your audience. Then your marketing actually won't matter. Clarity is getting your story down to simple, repeatable messages. There's something out there called the grunt test. When someone looks at your communication material, especially, let's say, your website, they need to answer 3 things in a very short period of time. What do you offer? How will it make my life better? And what do I need to buy or get started to engage your services? So as you're crafting your story, the number one thing you want to think about is, what do you want to be known for? What are you in the business of? So when people think about your business name or how they've encountered you, what comes to mind for them? And what are they going to tell their friends when they talk about your business? You want to think about examples of Tim Hortons. What are they in the business of? What is McDonald's in the business of? Is it really just selling hamburgers? Is Tim Hortons just selling coffee? Starbucks, are they selling coffee, or are they actually selling an experience? Experience away from the busyness of work or maybe the stress of home, and it's just another place to sit down with your friends and just get away from it all. Think about it that way. So then you want to start crafting your pitch. So your story starts to live out in different formats. There's different versions, longer and shorter, and some people like to call it a pitch. And again, there's a 10-second pitch, a 30-second pitch, or the story gets longer. Maybe it's on your website a little bit longer, but not too long. Or when you're having a conversation with someone that they've listened and you gave them your 10 or 30-second pitch, and now they're engaged and going, okay, yeah, I'd love to have a coffee with you. At that point, then your story can come a little bit longer. And even you want to keep it natural. That's the thing. So sometimes pitches sound too scripted and it sounds like they're being sold to. So that's one key thing you want to remember about pitch. But there's 4 elements in a pitch that I like to make sure that are always in there, no matter what length it is, to try to cover these 4 elements. So you want to cover your purpose, their problem, your plan, and a picture of their success. So there's P words again. I just end up liking it that way. So your purpose, their problem, your plan, and picture of their success. So you want to lead a little bit with why you even care. Why do you do what you're doing? So there's your purpose. And you don't want to go in that too much, but enough for they go, wow, that sounds like something you're excited about. And then you want to speak about the problem that's out there. Maybe it's not theirs specifically, or you're not speaking to them like it's their problem, but in general. And if it's the right audience, that'll strike a chord with them. And then you want to spend a little bit of time, but not too long, about what kind of a solution you're going to bring to that. What is your plan? And so your business is going to offer this solution to that problem. And then how are they going to feel in the end? If you think back to our movie analogy, how are they going to look when they ride off into the sunset and live happily ever after? So you've done a lot of homework, you've crafted this out, you've got a nice pitch statement kind of drafted out, and it might sound awkward because you're just reading it. So you need to go home and you need to practice it. You got to stand in front of a mirror and practice it. You want to practice it with someone close to you, someone that's close enough to listen and care, and also maybe to poke back a little bit. Whether they laugh at you a little bit at the beginning or they actually give you constructive criticism, that's really vital. And you need to practice it some more based on that. You could even go out there and start practicing it with some strangers that you don't really know. So people you're just meeting maybe at a business event, right? And you're networking and socializing a little bit, and they say, what do you do? Practice it. It might sound clumsy at first, but the more you do it, the more natural it'll become. It'll also be a way to test it, because you'll go back and go, okay, that didn't sound quite right. Or, you know what? They just gave me that glazed look when I talked about that. It's like, okay, I think I talked about myself too much. I didn't talk about their problem enough. Those are the ways you can test that. Record their responses, whether you can actually have a microphone there or not, but you're just recording it in your mind, right? Review what you heard, refine your story, and then so it becomes clear, confident, and natural. And that will become compelling. And then you have to start to use it. Once you've refined it enough and you're ready to launch it out there, you want to use it in all your communications. So you might be an existing business that's been doing this a long time. You're going to revisit all your communications and you're going to refine them, clean them up, and make sure that they're consistent in every little area to be consistent with your story, with your purpose. And then you want to start building your tribe. As we talked about, you're going to start using it out there in social media, and it's going to be in little different snippets, and you want to use it where it's applicable and natural. And if you're using it on Twitter, you're not giving them your whole pitch, but it's the language that you start using that is identifiable to your brand. And this is one way that you can build your brand fame, that people will start to understand who you are, what you have to offer, and how you can make a difference. So let's just stop for a second and let's do a recap of what we learned in this episode. We talked about what your brand is, and we talked about what it isn't. Your brand isn't about pretty pictures. Let me explain that. It's not about your logo, it's not about your website, it's not about your marketing, but rather it's your heartbeat and your organization's heartbeat, your business's core DNA. And it's about what you're communicating effectively and the essence of your business that is getting out there to your audience. So remember that your brand is your most valuable business asset. It is what you are building your business strategy on. Then we talked about your purpose. And this is one of the most important things to work on as an entrepreneur. You need to be both purposeful and profitable. We need to know how to make a difference in the world while we're making money. You need to be able to connect your personal purpose with your business purpose as an entrepreneur. You need to bring those together in order to move your business forward with something that will get you excited and get you out of bed every morning. Then we talked about the 4 P's of purpose: passion, proficiency, the problem, and profit. Making sure that all 4 of these are in alignment together and working at different aspects of your business in order to be profitable in the end, to be successful, and to be able to enjoy your business and have a sustainable organization. Then we talked about how to discover your purpose by listening to yourself, listening to others, and listening to the marketplace. When you listen well, you'll hear the things that can affirm the direction that you need to go. You'll be affirmed in what you're passionate about, and you'll be able to see the gaps in the marketplace to most effectively know which direction you should go with your business and how to communicate with your audience. Then you want to develop your vision and your mission, your goals, and then the plan for your business. Remember, the purpose is that heartbeat. That's your brand, right? The DNA of your brand. And so you start using that to build out the bigger picture, the vision of your business. Where does your business want to go? And then the mission is basically what you're going to do, who you're doing for, and how you're going to do it. And develop your goals for your business, your strategic plan, and building that all as a foundation for where you're going. And finally, we talked about being true to yourself. So when you've developed and discovered your purpose and developed your brand, you want to be true to yourself. Authenticity is what draws people towards yourself and your business. So stay on course that way. Next, we talked about your audience. And not just talking about your audience at a surface level. You need to know them at a deeper level. Do you really know them? Do you really know what they need? Do you understand their pains and the gains that they could have from encountering your services? We want to get specific about the details of their life and develop real specific personas for each one of your target audiences. So you want to start thinking about, what do they drink for coffee in the morning, or where do they go for coffee? What social media channels are they using? What is their economic status? Have they gone to college or university? Do they have any post-secondary? You want to think about their marital status. You want to think about the types of brands that they might actually be aligned with, whether it's a vehicle they buy or runners that they buy, and what is the arts and entertainment that they enjoy as well too. When you can start really crafting that deep understanding of them and understanding them from the inside out, then you're better able to clearly communicate with them. And once you have that all down, you want to develop a a really strong marketing strategy in order to be able to connect with them at that deep level. And then finally, we talked about your story. And this is about basically, positioning yourself and creating and crafting this shareable story that you're going to tell to the world and you're going to use to start building a community. You want to tell your story really well. If you don't tell it well, others will tell it for you. And unfortunately, if they don't have it 100% accurate, or they have some misconceptions about your story and your brand and who you are as a business, then they can get it off track. And when they start telling other people their version of the story, before you know it, it's on the brand runaway train. And it's hard to kind of bring that back. So you want to make sure that you launch it clearly yourself the first time. You want your story to be clear and compelling. When you cast clear vision, and we talked about vision basically being the story of your brand, when you can cast that clearly to people, they're drawn to that. People are drawn to clarity, and it will cause them to want to be part of that story at different levels, whether they're buying from you or they're going to be just a key influencer or a brand champion for you. You want to make sure that they understand it clearly. And remember, your story is not just about you. It's actually about your audience's story. It's about how your story will support their story. It's about how you will connect with them at that deep emotional level and help them become the hero of their own story so that they win in the end. If you're just selling your products, it's not going to be as compelling, but you need to help them understand how your products or your services will help them to win in the end. Think about, what do you want to be known for? When people have either engaged your services or met you for the first time, maybe they've heard you speak in public, what do you want them to remember about that encounter? What do you want them to tell others about you? What do you want your brand fame to be? Even when they Google you on the internet and search for you in different aspects, what is going to come up? So you can start building that brand fame. Then we talked about the 4 elements of your pitch. So your pitch is going to be different lengths at different times and used to tell your story, whether it's verbally, over coffee, or you're meeting someone, or you're in a presentation meeting, or even onto your website. But we want to make sure that your pitch is comprised of these 4 elements: your purpose, their problem, your plan, and the picture of their success. Then after you've developed that, I told you that you need to practice and practice and then practice again. And then once you've practiced it a lot, whether it was with family or friends in kind of that safe space, then start testing it out there in the marketplace. Start talking to people, see how it kind of rolls off your tongue. You're going to have to kind of fine tune it depending on the audience that you're speaking to and the length of time you have. So test it and refine it and just keep using it, and it'll be organic, and you'll be able to have a really natural flow with it so it doesn't sound like a pitch. So then you got to get out there and tell your story. Just use it in all aspects of your communication materials and start building your tribe and building your brand fame. So let's take a look at some questions that I've received from some viewers on some of these topics that we've been talking about today. And you might have some of these same questions, so hopefully this will answer those for you. And if we don't cover the questions that you may have, feel free to reach out to me either online or through social media and ask me those questions anytime, and I'd be happy to answer those for you. So let's take a look at our first one here. It says, isn't my brand just my logo, my website, and all my marketing? So that seems obvious, and that's what a lot of people think a brand is. The pretty pictures, as I always call them. But that's the branding. So the brand, if the brand is your heartbeat of your business, branding is the activation, the execution, the outward face of your business. So your logo is almost like your signature, like on a check, right? Your website is one of the tools that you can use to communicate, and your marketing and your campaigns are all the activation of your brand. But the brand is the essence of it, and it has to start there. If we start with the mindset that branding is just a pretty picture, it's just your logo is your brand, then you're missing so much. It's not going to be deep enough. And so then you might start building your communication materials on a very thin layer. And your brand has to be built on the essence of who you are. So it has to have depth, and that's what will resonate with your audience. So the next question is, what does purpose have to do with the brand of my business? Well, remember I said before that brand is the heartbeat, and purpose is basically the core of that brand DNA. So it's all about discovering who you are as an entrepreneur and the purpose that you have to fulfill through your business at this time in your life. So marrying your personal purpose, we said, with your business purpose. So what does that have to do with your business? That gives you a deep foundation in order to build your business strategy from that. If you don't know why you get up in the morning, and we said purpose is why, then how can you even start to build the where and the what and the how of your business? So that is the essence of where you need to start, that foundation. That's how important it is. Next question says, everyone talks about vision and mission. It seems all the same and it's so confusing. How do I make sense of it all? Well, as we talked about in the session earlier, and I showed you that one slide, it looked like a bullseye. Remember that purpose is at the middle. It's your why. And then vision, which is the next layer, that's where you're going for your business. Then we talked about mission, and mission being the what you're going to do, who you're going to do it for, and how you're going to do it. So if you kind of keep it in that order, it shouldn't be confusing at all. It's actually like building a foundation for a business or for anything, a foundation for a home. You got to start with the proper foundation, then you add the next part. And so unfortunately, the world out there mixes the word vision and mission up so often. A lot of people don't even talk about purpose, so that's why it gets confusing, because even some of the largest companies out there are using mission when they actually mean vision. So just keep that in mind. Go back to that slide that we talked about or your notes and just kind of keep it in that order, and it won't be as confusing. And keep in mind, we didn't talk about it too much today, but your core values. That's really important to have that permeate through all those statements. Next question said, you said that when a person loses their why, they lose their way. Can you explain that? Well, it's simple, right? If you forget why you exist, if you forget why you're in business, if you forget the purpose, then someday you're going to wake up and go, where am I? It's easy to get your business off course, off trajectory, just by a little bit here and there each day, each week, each month, each year, if you don't keep lining up everything that you do, right, vision and mission, on the tactical aspects of your business back to your purpose. And so it's easy to start taking different opportunities that might just be a cash grab and missing the opportunity of why it will launch your business forward or help you to fulfill your purpose and your vision. So you lose your why, you will lose your way, you will get off course. I hope that helps. I've also heard about core values. How do these fit into the big picture? Well, remember, as I said before, core values are the guiding principles. So those are the values that are dear to your heart and your organization. And I'm not talking just about integrity and trust and honesty and hard work. Those are permission to play values that we talk about in another session, and those are ones that you just have to have them. But core values are those 3 to 4 key factors that will guide every decision you make, that you'll use it as a filter to look through to make sure that you're on purpose, on vision, and on mission. And those guiding principles will help you make those tough decisions as you move forward and help your team as well. What about my staff? How do they fit into my business's purpose and vision? Just like we're saying before, when you know your purpose and your vision and your mission and your core values, these are items that you're going to document. You're actually going to craft strong statements that you're able to share and cast that vision to your team. And even backing up a step, you're going to share those thoughts with prospective team members. So when you're hiring in your HR practices, you should be using these statements and these philosophies in order to test who you're hiring and run it by them to see if they would be on board, if they are going to support your overall vision of your business. And so as you go forward, as a leader, you have to model these things. So that's how it kind of fits into your business, and that's how it's going to help your staff stay aligned. So if you're modeling these and you're casting vision, clear vision on a regular basis, and it has to be regular, they will get that and they'll understand how that works together. You'll also have to give them permission to live out a little bit of their own personal purpose within your organization in order to support your purpose. And finding a way that that can work together would be very powerful for them as employees, and it really helps retention for them to stay for the long term to help you achieve your goals. This viewer said, if I haven't implemented this thinking when I started my business, is it too late to do so? Absolutely not. When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time to plant a tree? Today. So get started. So use the tools that I've given you today and go back and reflect on where you're at with the business. Chances are, if you haven't implemented this, you might be off course. You might have woke up this morning and gone, whoa, what am I doing? I've lost my way, right? Because you've lost your why. So go back, retool. As I always say, park that bus, get off and check all the parts on the bus and see what's operating well, what's not. And then take what's operating well and then just add to that. But start crafting these statements, start looking at your purpose and your vision and your mission, and start rebuilding your business 2.0 as you go forward based on these principles. What is one of the best daily habits that keeps you aligned with your brand? All right, so time for a personal question for me. Well, for me, I start my day always with quiet time. For me, before all the noise and the chatter starts, before checking my Twitter feeds or watching the sportscast or seeing the highlights of the game, I want to sit down and get some quiet time to get ready for the day. In this time, I use it to basically just remind myself of who I am and what I'm here for and how to put others first. So if I can start my day that way by centering it on that foundation, then I can move forward. I can make a plan for the day, and I'm in the right mindset basically of who I am and what my brand is and what my purpose is. Basically, once you've written your purpose statement, you can actually then review your purpose statement at the beginning of each day, whether it's your personal purpose and your business purpose. And if you have those statements crafted down like I do and you've got them taped to your wall, just read them and remind yourself of them, and that gets you ready for the day. Last question here. It's a good one. Does a brand ever change? Well, your brand is alive, it's organic, so it's constantly evolving in one way or another. It's like a garden, I always say, and you have to sit there and prune it, you have to water it, fertilize it, you're tending to it, you got to pull some weeds. And so your brand does evolve, but it doesn't necessarily change. It's not this today and totally off in another direction tomorrow, because your purpose remains constant. It's the driving force. So if your purpose and your vision are strong, and you are doing your best to implement them every day into your organization, then that will keep you on course. But your brand might tend to, like I said, evolve a little bit because it could change with some times. If you've been in business for 10, 20 years, things will have changed a little bit and you have to adjust yourself. Years ago when I first started business, the internet was just a baby, right? It was just at the forefront. So things have evolved from our brand perspective, but the true purpose of our business hasn't changed. So just kind of keep working on that. Your branding will change though. As I said before, the pretty pictures, because you got to stay in trend. But the core message behind that shouldn't change. It just might evolve and tweak it up a little bit from time to time. You always have to be revisiting it. You can't expect it to be a one and done and then you just park it and you're good to go. You're always having to change it, especially with social media nowadays. You have to really stay on top of the trends, what's changing, and making sure that you're evolving your messages for the different audiences and staying on point and staying relevant with timely events or what's happening out there in the world. So I hope those questions really help you out, and feel free to send me any questions that you might have for yourself. Well, that's all there is to it. Simple, right? Okay, not so simple. There's a little more to it, but all you have to do is just start. Use the tools I've given to you and dig in. Invest in yourself and your brand. You have what it takes, and the world is just waiting to hear from you.